important.
I think failure teaches you things that you don't learn from success. I think failure gives you an opportunity for self-examination and also gives you a feeling that is very uncomfortable. Everybody's got these stupid barriers they put in their own head. You got to resist those goddamn things because they don't do you any good, and they certainly define the potential for your future in a negative way that's not self-serving and it's not even real. You know, you put this artificial ceiling on the potential for what you're doing. If you hit a wall, okay, that just means you need to regroup and rethink. It doesn't mean that wall's there, especially when it comes to something like social media or like a podcast, something where you're putting out a piece of art, you're putting out something that you've created. There's no wall as far as like how many people are going to enjoy it or how far it's going to go. It's just, it is what it is. And if people don't like it, make it better. If they like it less, fix that. Figure out a way to do it. You can do that. And this idea that there's no way to get past the starting block today is just ludicrous. It's crazy. And it's just this poor thinking. And people that are trapped in bad situations, one of the problems is you feel like this is your future. You feel like you're fucked and you can't get out of that. There's no hope. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no rainbow. And if you feel like that, that alone can be incredibly defining and limiting. But if you can look at yourself objectively and say, okay, I kind of am fucked here. I'm in credit card debt. I'm working in a shitty job. I don't like what I'm doing, but I have some ideas. I need to feed those fucking ideas. And I need to feed them and water them, and I need to set aside a certain amount of time every day to just try to make those things happen. You can do that.
I like visual images. You know, we use that in the hardcore history a lot. These, what's it like to fight an elephant with a spear? Things like that. I like those. But the
it's
image,
like to die. That's what it's like.
the image I have though for what you're talking about, I've always thought it's a little like a running back in football who takes the ball and who goes forward and there's no hole, right? All talking about. I've always thought you run into is the back of your offensive lineman. But if you keep hitting, if a hole is going to open up, boom, you'll squirt through. Now, there's no guarantee in life the hole will be there, but there is a guarantee that if you're not continually smacking at it, then when it opens up, you won't be ready, right? And so, I don't know about you, Joe. You've had a charmed life, I think, in how well you've done. But I mean, some of us have failed many times.
I've failed at a bunch of shit.
Teasing you.
I really have.
But I guess what I'm saying is I remember being a TV reporter at a small station, and I would get out of work at like midnight, and the story that I just spent all day on aired, and it was awful. And I would get out, and I would literally, this is when I still had quite a bit of hair, I would sit there and you pull your hair out. You go, what am I doing? Right? This is horrible. And I look back on those now, and I think, what if you had just given up then, right? Or the podcast. I mean, do you know how my wife did a great thing for me? We'd had that company that I just told you about that we were trying to do the new media thing. It just fell apart like everybody's companies were starting to do. And I'd wasted a lot of time and a lot of money in my life doing that. And she would have been totally justified in saying, that's it. You're going to Indianapolis, get a talk radio show job, wherever they'll hire. But she didn't. She said, you know what? You try this next thing. You could do it. And here we are. And I think, if you hadn't tried, it's that weird thing. And folks, I tried being a TV reporter. You try all those things, and either they're not successful, or they're moderately successful, or they're successful but not enough for you. Life is a verb. You have to, the thing that makes people the most sad in life, and I already have a couple of friends my own age who are there, is the regrets, right? They're not sorry they failed. They're sorry they didn't try. And the funny thing is, some of them are only 50 and they think, okay, my window to try is already gone, which is wrong too. But folks, you will be so happy. There's so many things that have happened in my life because I got my first talk radio show job. I was a reporter. I covered this story. There was some big guy showing up at the local radio station. And as I was leaving, I wrote a letter to the program director to say, thanks for having us. And I thought, do I mail this? Do I not mail it? Do I mail it? And just, I closed my eyes and I mailed. He called me 2 days later. So you want a job? What if you didn't send that letter? It's so stupid, the little things that your life can hinge on. But if you don't do them, you don't give fate an opportunity to intervene. I didn't send that letter.
I think here's an important thing, too. Failure is important.
It is important.
I think failure teaches you things that you don't learn from success. I think failure gives you an opportunity for self-examination and also gives you a feeling that is very uncomfortable. And that very uncomfortable feeling helps you grow. that when you feel like shit and you screw something up, like when I've had bad podcasts, my podcast has always gotten better afterwards. When I've had bad stand-up sets, I've always gotten better after that, because those bad sets motivate you. They give you a perspective like, hey, here's some clear examples of where you fucked up.
Yeah, what not to do.
Yeah, don't look at these failures as like proof that you suck. Look at them as opportunities for growth. Look at them as opportunities to be motivated to do better. And
Winston Churchill had a line about reading quotes, about how inspirational reading famous quotes were. And he says they motivate you from a number of different ways, including the idea that, you think it's just you, or you think that these people who did so well were so incredibly gifted or privileged from the get-go, and when you realize, no, they're more like me than I think, that becomes inspirational, right? You telling your audience this is inspirational. You don't want to hear, go back to school, go do this work, no. But if you hate your job, that is like nature telling you to try something different. And it's motivating because the motivation is you might not have to do that soul-killing job anymore.
Well, if you look at someone who's doing really well, like say if you focus on like Kevin Hart or someone like that, some very famous and successful comedian, all you see is him now flying around private jets, wearing a new pair of sneakers every day, driving around in Bentleys. You just see that. You don't see him being a young kid in Philadelphia, going to open mic nights, scratching and clawing,
MC Hammer
jokes.
selling the tapes out of the hatchback.
All that stuff, man, being a young man, there's a path. And we think of people like, you see an old person walking down the street, you go, oh, that person's always been an old person. No, that was a baby. That was a baby that became a 90-year-old man. There's a progression that you're not witness to. You don't see it. And that takes place in everything. It takes place in authors. It takes place in comedians and musicians. There is a starting point, and then with time and focus, and as long as you reevaluate and reassess and constantly, objectively look at what you're doing and then pursue it with passion and focus, you get better at things.